Now, Kuzco here, we're going to be drawing him in his llama form and in a profile view. So that means from the side. Now, I like to find the center of my paper just so I know where it sits. And a little bit above that, I'm going to sketch in a rectangle here. About the size of maybe like a small stick of butter, a chocolate bar, kind of the shape and size you want to go for here. Just sketching this pretty lightly. Doesn't matter if it is a completely perfect box. We're going to blend and curve out a lot of these lines here. Now I do want to add in some guidelines as well, just ever so slightly to the left side of the center of my rectangle. I'm going to bring up a vertical guideline. And then about a fourth of the way up here from the bottom of my rectangle, I'm going to sketch across a horizontal guideline. So it kind of looks like a Christmas present with a little like off-centered bow. That's kind of the shape that we go out here. Now what I want to do is actually build up a little bit of his neck here. So I'm going to bring down a very stretched out S-shaped curve right off the back of my rectangle here. And I'm going to do the same thing coming from just underneath that that vertical guideline here. But I want a little more emphasis on this curve, kind of giving him that very proud, puffed out chest, and then curve it back down. Mine's kind of extending a little past my page, but that is okay. You can make this as long or as short as you want to. He's a llama, so he's got a very long neck. Now I'm also going to give him a little bit of his eyebrow here. So coming from this back left corner, I'm going to bring up a very slanted rainbow until it meets at my center guideline here. And then I'm going to build up his hair. His hair, he has kind of like a long bob haircut as a human, and it kind of sticks within here in his llama form as well. So just off the back left again of my rectangle, I'm going to bring out like a very wide slope and then connect it to the side of his head here with that stretched out letter U. Now I also am going to just finish building up this silhouette really quick. I want to get the kind of curvature of his chin. Now he does have a little separation here between his hair and fur color and the color of the skin of his face. So I'm going to show that first with a nice stretched out parenthesis sitting right inside that rectangle. And now his chin here is actually going to become a little bit of like a roller coaster is what I like to think of. So from the bottom of that parenthesis curve, I'm going to bring up a stretched out letter U, turn that into a very slight rainbow, and then drop down a bit of a deeper letter U as it reaches that far right bottom corner of my rectangle, and then blend it out, meeting my horizontal guideline. It's kind of a lot of detail, and you can add in any kind of wiggly line here, just giving him a little bit more of a detailed lower head and lower lip here for him. And then to create that very top section of his nose, that snout, I'll bring down one more diagonal line and another diagonal slope that meets towards that horizontal guideline once again. He has a little bit of an overbite, so you kind of want to extend that lower lip more than the top one. Now, I know that was an insane amount of information, right? Are we still hanging in there?
Nope.
Yeah. I promise, if you're not hanging in, I'll give you a second to catch up, but we are going to start to keep a couple things about our drawing. As we go back, we're going to start to kind of stick with some of the lines we've added in. You'll slowly start to see a little bit more of this character. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start locking in my lines. Now, what that means is I'm just going to start pressing a little bit harder with my pencil on my paper here to darken in the lines that I like. I'm going to kind of start on the outside and work my way in, but you just want to start to lock in and darken in these lines here. Now, basically, as you're doing this, it'll slowly start to make those really light, messy, sketchy lines really fade away into the background. That is our goal, even though this is the only place in the entire Disneyland Resort where we do encourage you to be a little bit sketchy. Thank you for your pity laughs. They really keep it going. But we do want to eventually hide all of those messy and sketchy lines. Now, we'll take a little bit of time here to lock in some lines, so I will yap and talk to you about this movie. Now, big first question, do we have any fans of The Emperor's New Groove out there? Woo! Yeah, that's what I thought. I love it. Okay, this is honestly one of the most underrated Disney movies in my personal opinion, and it's been around for quite a while. It has officially been out for about 25 years almost. It came out in 2000. Yeah, if you didn't feel old, now you do. But this movie is absolutely amazing. It is kind of part of the experimental era, I guess you could say, of Disney animation. And it's some of my favorite parts of Disney animation as well. And part of the reason why I think this movie is so much fun, such a fun film, is kind of in part to a lot of the voice actors and the people that brought these characters to life. Now, Kuzco particularly has a pretty fantastic voice actor. Does anybody know who voices Kuzco? David Spade, yes, a great comedian. He is in lots of different things. Pretty much any Adam Sandler movie he is in. So if Adam Sandler is in the movie, David Spade is usually in it too. But David Spade, we have the voice of Crunk is brought to you guys. Does anybody know who that is? Patrick Warburton. Yes, if you don't know who Patrick Warburton is, because you've been on Soarin' or Soarin' Over the World, he is your flight attendant / captain over there. Tells you to put away those little beauties that you wear on your head. And we even have an absolutely amazing voice actor for the villain of this movie. The villain Yzma is played by an absolute amazing talent named Eartha Kitt. Now she is a very great Broadway actress, singer. She has a very iconic voice. Literally the way that Yzma sounds is just how Eartha Kitt talks. But she is an absolutely incredible talent. Though she wasn't actually the very first pick for the voice of Yzma. They originally wanted a very different Broadway star to kind of voice this character. Their first choice was actually Barbra Streisand. I know. I feel like that would be a very different story, a very different character if it was voiced by Barbra Streisand. But definitely Yzma is literally the way she is because of Eartha Kitt, which I think is super awesome. Now, I am adding in his hair here, starting to add in some hair texture. And that's a place where you can get pretty creative. You don't have to make it look exactly like mine, but you just want to add in some little shark fins, blades of grass kind of shapes here to add in some more movement to him. Now I'm especially going to do that on the front of his chest here to kind of show where that proud chest puffs out a little bit. Some of his hair is going to do the same thing. Just fluffing this out on either side. Oh, and we have one more voice actor that I almost completely forgot, is John Goodman. He plays Pacha in this movie. And John Goodman has done lots of different things for Disney and Pixar. He tends to play the very gentle giant character. Very much like Pacha in this, he plays Sully from Monsters, Inc. And he also plays Charlotte's dad, Big Daddy LaBeouf, in The Princess and the Frog. So definitely those big kind of gentle giant characters, but he is an absolutely incredible actor that we bring here to this movie as well. All right, I need to start adding in some more details and features here to my llama. First place that I'm going to start is his mouth or his smile. He's pretty sneaky, like I said, very dramatic. So I want to give him this pretty funny little smirk here. So right where his lips kind of purse together, I'm going to follow my horizontal guideline just a bit, and then slowly curve it up towards the top of his head shape. That's going to give me this very simple smirk line here for his smile. And to show that it is pressing up his cheeks a bit, I'm going to add in a little rainbow on the end, giving him what we call a smile line. And then so this llama can breathe, he's also going to get a little nostril kind of slit here, bringing it across a simple candy cane rainbow curve from that front part of his snout here. Now for his eyes, or eye, because we're only going to see one, it's pretty big. It's going to sit in this whole space over here on the left side of his head. And it's not a perfect circle, it's not really an oval, it can be any shape you want really, but I'm just going to sketch in a round shape that fits right over here on that left side once again. And this kind of, if we left it like this, looks like he's seen some things. So we need to give him a little bit more focus, maybe a little bit more attitude. Now, the way that I like to do that is to bring down his eyelid a little bit. So just about a third of the way down, I'm going to bring across a very flat rainbow. and kind of thicken that up a little bit to give him what we call a lash line, just showing he has those eyelashes, but rather than sketching all of them in, we'll just thicken up that space here. Now, this movie originally was going to take a very different kind of trajectory. It was going to have a very different story. Originally, they wanted this to be kind of like a big blockbuster musical, very much like The Lion King. It's supposed to be a little bit more of a darker story originally too, but they wanted to have kind of follow the same like formula that The Lion King did. They wanted to bring in a big pop star, big music star to write and do some of the music. And originally the story was going to be called Kingdom of the Sun, and they were going to have Sting do the music for this as well. But clearly they went a very different way. I think the story may have been too dark, so they wanted to change that in some different ways. And we ended up getting this, which despite the name, The Emperor's New Groove, it is a little play on words, or a little play on the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, The Emperor's New Clothes. It's actually not based on it whatsoever. They just used that title to kind of inspire their own title here. Now I'm drawing in just a small bit of his pupil because that eyelid is going to cover up most of it here. But you want to make sure you shade that in nice and dark. That's how you're going to really make sure to make eye contact here with our character. Now I also need to give him an eyebrow, and even though he was from 2000, he does not have the early 2000s pencil thin brows. I am going to start that way though with a very simple curve, but I will thicken it up a little bit more as it gets closer to like the top of his eyebrow ridge here. I also need to give him some bangs. I just realized he's a little bald on the top of his head here. And I'm going to add in the same kind of shark fin shapes that I did over his chest, but bring these just from the top of his head here. Kind of bring up one pointing towards the top of your paper, and another one that folds down over the front of his head here as well. And then we're missing one final thing here for our llama. What is he missing? Well, you could have drawn his crown. His crown is pretty fantastic. But he's missing his ears. So we're going to show, I know, you wouldn't even think about it because he usually has that crown on his head. But yes, as a llama, he needs his ears. So his ears are going to be pretty simple shapes. I'm going to drop my paper down so you can see a little bit. But from over here on the left, I want to bring up this like curved teardrop shape. So I'm going to start with a parenthesis curve. And you want these to be a little bit wider towards the end of his ears, and a little more narrow and skinny as they meet and connect to his head. Now we are going to see these in a bit of what we call perspective here. So one ear is going to look a little different than the other, just because it is maybe facing the other way. It's a little bit farther into the background. But this ear up on the left is actually where we're going to see a little bit more detail. We're going to see the inside of that ear. So if you want to, you can add in what would be like the inner fold of his ear as well. Add in a little letter B down here at the bottom. Once you add in those ears, anything else you want to add here for Kuzco is pretty much going to be considered extra credit. You can draw in his giant crown on his head. You can draw Pacha or anything else in the background. Maybe that little vial of poison for Kuzco. Kuzco's poison, yes. The poison specifically for Kuzco. Totally up to you. I like to add in some shading. That's my favorite way to show some extra credit. So I will shade in pretty much everything but the area where his eye is. So this lighter area. Just use the side of your pencil. It'll help to cover a little bit more ground here as you shade. But feel free, add in any other extra credits, anything else that you think your sketch needs. But the very last step that every artist needs to make is a signature. So find a spot and sign your name. Once you are done, nice and big, nice and proud, because you have drawn your very own sketch of the one, the only, Emperor Kuzco. And with that, in the end, how did we do? Okay, I hear some woos. Some of us are a little stunned in the silence. Maybe you really be thinking our life choices. That's okay.